Hello, everyone, and welcome. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the the season two premiere of Daredevil Born Again season two. So the way this starts off is actually us being on what looks like a cargo ship in the middle of New York, and we see none other than Daredevil in his black suit with the red DDs on it, being the ninja we know him to be, taking out his opponents in the shadows. Kind of gives us homage to what the character is supposed to be like, which I do like. And also, he is much more violent this time around, breaking bones, ripping limbs, not completely off, but breaking them enough that we see muscle. Was definitely not on my uh, bingo card for this one, but I am not mad about it whatsoever. Come to find out, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, was on the ship trying to prove that Fisk is bringing in weapons inside New York City through these cargo ships. He was able to prove so by seeing them. However, the failsafe was the fact that if anybody were to get on the ship, they were to sink it immediately. The idea is that way nobody could know what was going on, and that way nobody would actually be looking inside the ship to see what was in it either. So because of all of this, we had Matt having to swim his way out of there, and the two sailors, I guess you would call them, abandoned ship as well. So they were the only three that supposedly made it out of there alive. So then Fisk finds out the next morning, is furious, wants them hunted down completely, and anybody who has any knowledge of where they are to tell him immediately, and that they would be dealt with right away. He then ordered a crew to go in there to remove all of the guns and weapons inside there because he wants to make sure that the stuff that's in there can still be usable. We'll have to wait and see to know for sure. So we then have them in their little mayor's meeting, I guess you would say, and the DA of New York was in there along with the assistant DA, who was in there basically mouthing off um, to Fisk, stating you can't just have these trials of vigilantes without us being involved. You know, they need to have a proper hearing. We need oversight on this stuff because we can't trust you whatsoever. Well, we find out that none other than his name is Mr. Charles in the show, but it's Matthew Lillard, who is phenomenal. Finds out what's going on, is ordered by his boss to deal with the situation himself. He goes to New York, butts into the meeting, basically tells everyone what to do. He gets the DA the DA gets a phone call while he's there, basically telling them to mind his own business and to back off. And because of this, he backs away and exclaims to Fisk that he is 100% behind it, and he'll gladly work with him on trying to get things situated and get things moving the way it should be, which is one of the best things that he could hear at this time. So we have all that going on. So then we find out as well that he then is going to meet with Fisk personally later. So then we have Matt Murdock trying to figure out what's going on and trying to figure out who's on the ship or who was on the ship to kind of get the information that's needed to better understand. I don't want to phrase this, better understand exactly what's going on, but also trying to get proof that there were weapons on that ship. So his idea is to go find the two men who were on it to do so. The anti-vigilante task force comes in and finds the old man, who then gets captured inside of what should be in a safe place for him. And they break in. Well, they don't break into the place, but they barge in. They hunt him down. They get him. They bring him back to a basically like a warehouse and start beating him up for information. He doesn't have the information because it turns out he wasn't the one that ratted on anybody. So Fisk's number two comes in, basically exclaiming to the task force that they're useless and that clearly they don't know how to deal with people at all because just bashing people in, doesn't get you the information that you need. So he talks to him and finds out that the guy has no knowledge for them, nor information on what's going on at all, and realizing that it's the other guy who has all the information and was the one that ratted them out. So he kills him. Um, but before he does, he basically exclaims to him, "I'm sorry that I had to do this. That you're dying for no, for somebody else's crimes," and takes him out. Um, we then have a meeting with Fisk, Mr. Charles, and Vanessa. Um, and Mr. Charles is not afraid to speak his mind, especially in front of Vanessa. And Fisk is not happy about that. But basically, what Mr. Charles is saying is that here's the thing: my boss is pretty much beyond all of us and above all of us. And so when they're not happy, I can promise you worse things will ever happen. So here's how this is going to go. He states to Fist that you're going to, well, I'm going to set up a team. You can handpick them yourselves or what, I don't care. That are going to be pulling out all the guns out of that cargo ship. And then after that, they will be killed and removed because I don't want any loose ends, as there've already been too many loose ends as it is already. Fisk agreed to it, not really super thrilled about it, but does so anyway. We then find out that Karen Page has been a spy wearing wigs, getting as much information as possible out into the world. She's working with BB, who is working on Fisk's campaign of basically proving that New York is better with him than without him. We also find out that there's another group or another news outlet, let's say, that is using Fisk as a moniker, as like a joke to basically show that New York is not safe and that he's the kingpin and wants the world to be under his fist. No idea who that is, but it definitely is showing that there's some resistance to begin with. We then find out that Matt's former partner, the lawyer, is not working with Fisk at all, even though she's being threatened multiple times on doing so and she's refusing to, basically stating that she doesn't care what they have to offer. She's not willing to back down and basically go against her morals at all. We then have the detective leave them and go meet with Matt, who, basically talk about what's going on and everything else. And he basically asking some information on what's kind of going on and see if he can find anything. So, Matt basically explains that we need to find these guys as quickly as possible. Task Force finds out that he's asking a bunch of questions. They go and interrogate him, start beating him up. Matt comes in as Daredevil and starts beating him down. However, he hears his buddy having a heart attack, freaks him out enough to get knocked down by the cops, and it looks like Matt's going to lose his life as his mask is pulled off his head and everything else. Well, while this is going on, we have bullets coming through the building, taking out each one of the men with ease. Then a knife thrown in, bounced around, lands perfectly on the tip, and on the knife is engraved, "You're welcome," with the bullseye symbol in the middle, proving that bullseye is helping the group. How? We don't necessarily know, but either way, figuring that out altogether. One thing I didn't talk about was um, because that was basically the end of that story. We have BB working with the deputy mayor on trying to get as much information as possible so she can give to Karen. So all that's going on in this kind of time frame as well, and seeing that kind of play out, which really not much has happened, but it at least establishes what's going on. The other piece is the swordsman, who we've seen in Hawkeye, and then now we've seen him in Daredevil both seasons. He is the vigilante swordsman. So he is being held captive, and the psychiatrist that we see in the first one is basically trying to decide whether or not he is competent for trial or not, basically figuring out whether or not he's crazy. So she's starting to have her own psychosis in the sense of seeing muse everywhere, and because of that, she begins to go deeper and darker into the pit of despair in which Fisk is wanting her to pull strings on getting all these people seen as being people who are unstable. Um, the swordsman tries to be nonchalant and basically state that he's not worried because he is an American, he has rights, and she basically explains to them, "No, you don't. We can keep you here forever if we so choose to, based on my words. So you're going to do what I ask you, answer my questions, and we'll be done here." And he begins to answer all her questions. We also find out that she changes his answers through the request of the DA to prove that he is not sane, even though he technically is. And that's kind of where we see her breaking down a lot. And that was pretty much all of episode one. So in the next time that this comes out, there will be two episodes. So what I'm expecting to see is more of what's going on with the resistance, seeing a lot more people join the group, and there better be a conversation as to why Daredevil, I mean, Bullseye saved Daredevil. Because if that's not talked about in either of these episodes, I'm going to be pissed. Also, we are expecting to see Jessica Jones. She should be in the next two episodes, or at least in one of them at the very least, but we'll have to wait and see to know for sure. But overall, very excited to where this season started, and excited to see where the rest of the season is going to go. But for now, if you let me know how you thought about this episode first off. In the comments down below. And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a wonderful night. Bye bye.